How's it going today, guys? So today we're going to be talking about what could possibly cause the Bitcoin bubble to pop. Now, I know a lot of people are going to argue with me and say that Bitcoin is not in a bubble, and it may or may not be. In my opinion, looking at it from the outside, because I've said before, I am not a Bitcoin investor. I'm watching it from the sidelines because it's very interesting to me, but it's not something I'm investing in personally. I believe that it is in a bubble, okay? Now, just because it's in a bubble, that does not mean that it's going to pop now or anytime soon. I believe these are the 6 reasons that could cause that bubble to pop, and we could see Bitcoin prices drastically drop. A bubble in financial terms is essentially when an asset trades at a price that strongly exceeds the intrinsic value, and at that point it is speculative. So people are investing on a speculative basis or based on speculation. I think most people investing in Bitcoin are doing so out of speculation because they believe that Bitcoin is the currency of the future. It's certainly not the currency of today. You don't see people using it on a regular basis, but people believe it will have much more prevalence in the future. We're going to see people using it to buy things at the store, and it's going to be a huge currency that people all over the world are going to use as a functional currency aside from the fiat currencies. Now, we're not there today. We have a far way to go before we're at that point with Bitcoin. So in my opinion, that is why I believe it is speculative. And due to the fact that the price has appreciated so rapidly, it appears to be a bubble. Now, let me just restate this, guys. Just because it's a bubble, that does not mean it's going to pop now or anytime soon. But if the Bitcoin bubble were to pop, it is my opinion that it would be one of these 6 things that would trigger it. It may be something totally different, but these are the most likely scenarios, in my opinion, that would cause that Bitcoin bubble to burst. Number 1 on my list is massive profit taking from retail investors. So most people who invest in Bitcoin are retail investors. They're average people like you and me investing a couple $1,000s or whatever the amount is that they're investing in Bitcoin. Most retail investors are novices, they're beginners at this, and they make emotional decisions when it comes to their investment. So they may see the signs of some kind of pullback and they may react with their emotions, sell all of their Bitcoin, sell all of their cryptocurrency, and that could result in an immense amount of bearish pressure on Bitcoin just due to the emotional trading typical of retail investors. Number 2 would be another major hack or cyber attack. So I'm sure we are all familiar with Mt. Gox. That was the largest Bitcoin hack of all time, where millions of dollars of Bitcoin were just lost. They were vanished, they were stolen, and Mt. Gox, the largest exchange at that time as far as the transaction volume goes, went completely under. So if we saw that happen again with a major Bitcoin exchange, I believe we would see the same thing happen where we saw another Bitcoin crash as a result of that exchange being hacked and people losing that Bitcoin altogether. So if we had another scenario like that happen, I think that alone could cause a Bitcoin crash and pop that Bitcoin bubble. Number 3 would be any kind of government involvement with Bitcoin, okay? Because Bitcoin is meant to be the currency of the people. It's meant to be a currency that has no backing by any government, and it's independent of government regulation. So if we were to see any governments trying to step in and regulate this currency, or what would be interesting as well, and the Federal Reserve was talking about this, is implementing their own digital currency that could possibly undermine Bitcoin, I think that is a serious concern as far as government stepping in and trying to regulate this currency or possibly blocking this currency from use. So any kind of government regulation as far as Bitcoin goes, I think we can all agree that would be a huge negative for this currency, and that could cause prices to drastically fall. Number 4 is bearish pressure from Wall Street. So something very interesting is happening, and we talked about this in one of my previous Bitcoin videos, but Bitcoin futures are now going to be offered through major Wall Street exchanges. So before that, there was no way for people to speculate on the future price of Bitcoin through a legitimate regulated exchange. The only way to do that would be to go through an unregulated exchange, and there was too much risk for most people to do that, especially Wall Street investors. Now, however, on December 18th going forward, there will be at least one major exchange offering Bitcoin futures where people can speculate on the future price of Bitcoin. Now, I am certain that there are people chomping at the bit to get a short position on Bitcoin due to the rapid appreciation of that price. So if we see many big Wall Street investors and institutional investors taking out short positions on Bitcoin in these futures contracts, then you could again see these retail investors begin to take take profits off the table or start selling out of fear, because a lot of these Wall Street investors and big investors are going to sway the decisions of these retail investors because they trade based on emotion in most cases, and they're not usually very confident in their own decision-making abilities. So those two things combined, seeing major Wall Street institutions taking out short positions on Bitcoin, that could cause retail investors to start taking profits and becoming fearful, and the whole sentiment around Bitcoin could change, and we could see a crash just from that alone. Number 5 would be liquidity issues with major Bitcoin exchanges, and we just saw this happen with Coinbase and Gemini last week when there were major Bitcoin exchanges. Those two exchanges right there actually crashed and shut down because they could not handle the transaction volume and the volume of new people trying to open up accounts. And then finally, my last reason would be if we saw a major correction with another cryptocurrency out there. Now there's a lot of them out there, so I would say this would have to be a major currency like possibly Litecoin or Ethereum, one of those major cryptocurrencies, because there are hundreds of them out there now. I'm not saying that if some obscure cryptocurrency crashed, it would affect Bitcoin prices, but we know that these tend to move together. Now, Bitcoin is without a doubt the bellwether for the cryptocurrencies out there, but I do believe that if we saw a major correction with a coin like Litecoin or Ethereum, that alone could trigger a sell-off with Bitcoin. Again, due to the fact that most people investing in these are retail investors, they're going to make emotional decisions. And when they see prices falling, loss aversion is going to be triggered, and they're going to want to sell whatever they have because they don't want to lose money. They want to lock in these profits. So a lot of this has to do with the fact that most investors in cryptocurrency are retail investors, and they're just prone to making emotional decisions. But anyways, guys, that is what I believe to be the 6 reasons that the Bitcoin bubble may pop. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to be notified of any future uploads. And as always, I thank you for taking the time to watch this video.